Hi friends, welcome back. This video is going to summarize quite a bit of things, and we have enhanced the project a little bit more, and we have also added a bunch of side panel entities that we can actually use as utilities across multiple projects. So we want to demonstrate all of those features. So as you can see, we added a lot more projects now, or directories in the Git repository. And when you see the Git repository, the Teams app is the client-side application that we can use on the client side. Ideally, this would be put into a public Teams app store, and then people can use it and implement that into their teams as we have meetings. So this Teams FX Service Center is the Service Center module. The Service Center staff will actually use that, and of course the Teams FX Service Center has its own bots, and the Teams bot is integrated into the Teams app. So Teams bot is an external bot. If you want to test the bot out, you can test it out separately, but it's actually integrated in the Teams app. So these are the new ones. Delarian marker is the one which we have added as a side panel application to kind of show images to the user in a meeting, and then kind of demonstrate that side panel screen sharing stage functionality. DeLorean's IoT kind of demonstrates the dynamic aspects of the backend. Like maybe you can have an IoT device connecting to the vehicle and emitting out events, and then that is getting streamed into the Azure infrastructure via maybe the Azure IoT Hub or IoT Central. And then you are analyzing the data and then kind of showing graphs inside the Teams app and then sharing that inside the meeting, right? So that's pretty powerful. But we're just showing fake data and integrating that application into the Teams meeting stage, right? So Talent marker is for the images and the consultation and the marking it out, and this is for the dynamic debugging as the machine runs and collects data. So this is the RFP side panel. This is also enhancement that we put in so that you can use it for multiple applications. So whenever you have a meeting, you can actually add this application into the side panel, and it will allow you for request for payments. RFE stands for request for payments. So you can actually send out the request for payment. So think of the scenario where you're actually having a meeting with a client and showing them um, the invoice, and maybe then they're asking them to pay for it separately, right? So that's RFP. The Teams app, which is a client's app, already has payment capability, so it can take payments real time. So that's called RTP. That's not RFP, it's RTP, real time payments, and this is a request for payments. So it kind of happens offline. So this is the DeLorean side panel tab. This is the one which we are using to kind of capture vehicle inspections in the meeting. So when you're inspecting the car in the garage, and maybe you're having a meeting with the customer, and then you're actually showing the things that are bad with the inspection. So the theme here is like the inspection is there all over the place. It's in the client side app, it's in the service center app, it is in the chat part, it's in the side panel. The idea is the same functionality can be achieved in so many ways inside Teams, and we want to demonstrate all of that, right? So everything has been pushed into Azure. So this is like pretty much the final kind of a frontier. So if you're gonna back up here, you will see that this is the home, and these are all the individual. So there are two resource groups. Unfortunately, they created two subscriptions on Microsoft, and then it's a little bit of a mess because they disabled one subscription and then try to migrate over our applications over to the second subscription. Kind of did it halfway, but then it's kind of hard to differentiate which subscription is which unless you know the ID, and then Teams Visual Studio Code doesn't show us the ID, and then it kind of created a mess. So you have two resource groups. You see here, user 73. This one is the first resource group, which has pretty much all our Teams app, the four application services. So if you click on type here, so you'll see that there's auto repair, that's a client side app, auto report chat, which is our chat GPT integration, which will show. Auto service center API is the API piece, which is the backend piece. And then the SSO bot is for the bot for the service center side. And and this is for the development. I mean, it creates multiple apps with its own unique names as we do Teams FX deployment. So you'll see a little bit of duplicates. And it has a bunch of app service plans, and it has a bunch of bots. It has a bunch of more identities, right? So that's kind of what we have in this subscription. And unfortunately, like I said, there is another subscription. I mean, and there's a resource group created in that, and that has the remaining pieces of the puzzle, right? So these are all the. I would kind of say that these are mostly the side panel tab applications. So it's a little bit of a mess, but then just want to finish off this demo and hackathon. So I'm not going to put too much effort into migrating this into the different subscription and resource group, right? So there are two subscriptions and two resource groups right now, unfortunately, right? So then we can kind of go into this admin.teams.microsoft.com. And this is pretty much like your Teams admin portal. So when you go in here, you will basically see all the applications that we have for our organization. You have to click on this to open this up, and then you can see Teams apps and manage apps. And when you click on that, so I have gone through the process of building them, pushing them to Azure by deploying all the resources, and then I have deployed the actual app, and then also published into the portal. So I think I kind of covered that in the previous demo, but if you want to take a look, we can show you a quick demo here. Open folder. So any of the Teams FX apps, let's say we want to do the IoT one, right? We can pick that. I won't actually deploy because I don't want to mess things up. But if you switch to the Teams toolkit, you'll basically sign into Microsoft 365, and then it'll sign into Azure. And this is pretty much what I was talking about. The first thing you need to do is provision to the cloud. That submits all the RM template and creates all the application IDs, and it creates all your bot infrastructure and all that. And then you do deploy into the cloud, but actually deploys all your managed identities and your storage accounts, and pushes your code into the Teams FX code into the storage account, and creates an app service plan, and then makes it allow it to um, show the web app through the sort of storage account, right? So there's an app service plan, there's an app, there's a storage account, and then they're all hooked together up to kind of show you the app, right? So that's pretty much what's going on there. And then you do publish in your Teams. That is, will push the zip the manifest, push the manifest automatically into the Teams portal for your app for your org. And then you have to log into the Teams portal like here, and then you will basically have to submit, accept that. Right? They'll come here as pending approval, and you will have to accept it and then move on, right? So just to see our applications, the best thing to do is sort by publishing status, and then these are all our apps. So we kind of see all the things that start off with DeLoreans, except for that one particular app. We also named we have fixed the naming convention, so everything is 1.0 right now. You see, that one is again old, so we didn't want to mess with that. We just kept it as is. These are pretty much all our apps. Inspection for the inspection side panel, RFP for the RFP side panel, IoT for the dynamic graph display side panel, marker.js for the showing the pictures and marking on it. That's the side panel again. So these are all four side panel applications. And this is the service center application used by the service center for talking to customers and looking at their consolidated invoices, etc. And this is the client side application where all this we demoed in the previous videos. But this pretty much I want to show that everything was deployed into Teams, and then everything is in the published status, and it is allowed for users to use, right? So when you go into Teams, actually, if you kind of click on the apps here. So this one, if you can filter on build for your art. So this is something which I learned. The applications that show up here are really the apps, but not the side panel apps, which is weird. I don't know why, but that's kind of how it's built. And I've tried for quite a bit because it says a couple of hours, but I've waited a couple of hours. It doesn't show up, but if it shows up, it's great. If not, I'll show you how to pull that in. So this is the client side app. This is the server side app. And we kind of have seen all this, right? I have pinned them here, so you can kind of see this is the client side app. And one cool thing, and we have seen the chat. That's the first one, and this is DeLorean's Auto. That's a personal tab. You can log in and do all the stuff which we and then submit a payment also. I think we have walked this through this before, but this is the addition we did. This is actually integrating with ChatGPT. So we have a app that is running behind the scenes, and it is actually using React for the front end. But the back end is like where the ChatGPT integration happens is actually inside this auto repair app. So this app, which is running as a tab here, serves as a front end for the app, but also acts as a back end for the ChatGPT integration. Right. So it's kind of a weird way to do it, but we wanted to consolidate all our app services into one and reduce costs. So we can put that in the same app. Otherwise, you're going to split that into a front end, back end app to deploy two apps for ChatGPT and then get it to work. So that's an option too, right? So just to kind of give a demo, like let's say what tires are good for Honda Odyssey. To do that, it's basically going to contact ChatGPT, and it is going to use an API key, and then it's going to ask the question and then get you the answer, right? So maybe we can say, what spark plugs do we use in an Audi? And it's going to contact ChatGPT again. This is not searching something that we can take complete credit for. It's just integration into Teams. That is the only part we can take credit for, but the actual ChatGPT is where the power is. It is actually doing all the hard work. It's sending a question, and it's basically coming back with the answer. Let's say um, I see smoke from under my car. What should I? What do I do? Then it's gonna think a little bit here, and then it's gonna say, hey, you need to shut it off and then get out of the place, and make sure you take it to the right person, get it towed, and get it fixed, right? You can ask questions like, is Tesla a good brand? So that's pretty cool. So just want to demonstrate that piece of the puzzle. So this is the client side app, and then we are familiar with this one. We already kind of looked at it. You can log in, and then you can look at the vehicles and services invoices. You can payment and all that, right? And this is a service center app. I've pinned these two. So anything you want to actually, you can right click here and then say pin. It will pin it there. But there's only so much you can pin. There are only two or three that you can pin. If you can get rid of this activity or something, then you can pin them. Yeah, pin more apps. But so this is the server side app, right? So yeah, this we have kind of again, if you want to capture an inspection via command bot, so this is the way we do it. So it kind of gives back an answer, and then you can fill out a form. This is a quick form. It's almost a bot integration. Um, there's no interaction with any customer or anything. The customer is actually asking for an inspection form, and you're giving a form, and then um, this can be filled by the customer on the other side, and the bot is actually taking on the answer, right? So you're gonna pick today's date here. So this is kind of, imagine that the customer is actually picking all this and submitting a report to the um, to the service center, right? So you can do that, and then it is basically going to say, hey, I got it. And then there could be events that are going on that can actually chain and kick off a series of events. So it's a quick command bot integration. So here you can also look up things like I'll probably look at one of the wins from the old example. So I'm going to pick this, and then if you see here, I can actually do a win space and hit enter, and it's actually going to pick up the win, then look it up from the database and give you all the service records. So similarly, you can actually do this win and then VRM, and this is a license plate, and it's going to come with that, right? And then you can also do email all46 at gmail.com. We have seen this before. It's going to look it up and then give you all the service records. You can page through all of this and kind of get an idea of what a particular customer's data is, right? Instead of trying to look him up or whatever. Right?